my classroom burst into flames and we luckily did not die. So here's what happened and here's what I learned. So back in year 11, I believe it was, we were in this science class, chemistry, and we were doing these pracs. So basically we were like burning like certain metals and seeing like the color of the flames that, that pops up. And we were dealing with, some pretty cool chemicals. And amongst those chemicals was a chemical called cyclohexane. And basically, just to put it simply, it's like petrol. It's very flammable. If you put a flame next to it, it's probably not going to have great things happen. So what happened was we were in the middle of this prac. We were just, doing all these experiments, using that as fuel so we can start the fire, and then we can start burning all these like cool stuff to see, different colors and all of that. And all of that was going good until around halfway during the prac. My friend on the other side of the classroom, I just saw him, I just saw him just doing like weird stuff. Like he was putting this match very close to the petrol just to see like how close he could get to the to the bottle. I think it was like a dare or something. To be honest, I'm still not sure the exact details. But he was basically just playing with a match, a lit match, next to a bottle of cyclohexane. And he was doing that for a while and nothing much happened. Until one second, I just turn around and I just see a massive flame on his table, and it got onto his lab coat as well. And so I just see him doing this, trying to wipe the flames out. And at this moment, the teacher saw it, and the teacher got shit scared. So she called the lab assistant, and the lab assistant quickly got this massive glass container. Typically, you put this glass container over the fire, so it kind of suffocates the fire because there's no oxygen. And so they got this massive glass container that's meant for these purposes, put it on, and we thought that was the end. And as this was happening, the teacher got all of us to move to the other side of the classroom, and we were just sitting there waiting for the flame to extinguish. And the flame seemed to slowly go down, and we thought, okay, cool, that's the end of it. We put this glass container over it, there's no oxygen, the fire's going to go out, until it exploded. So the glass container exploded because the fire was too big. And so now the fire was even bigger than before. And the issue was, this was just on one table. The fire was just on this one table. There was piles of cyclohexane or petrol-like stuff on all the other tables across the entire classroom. So if this fire spread, it'll probably burn down the entire classroom because it already damaged one desk. And if it damages the entire classroom, probably the whole school is going to probably burn down. So at this stage, this is where, they got the fire extinguishers. They got a couple of people just to, really just spray it as much as possible. And over the course of the next 10 to 15 minutes, eventually the flame was put out. So that was a memory that was mentioned so many times after that experience, because the worst thing was, in that class, it was a new teacher who was teaching that class. And so this was only her one of her first classes, and this happened. So obviously it wasn't a good look on her resume. But at the end of the day, the fire was put out. The teacher was not fired, luckily, because it wasn't really her fault. But we saw in person what it's like to have petrol set on fire and to have a part of the classroom burst into flames. And so the reason I want to tell you this story is because, there's multiple takeaways, be safe around fire and everything. But besides that, the more important takeaway, and I guess where I'm kind of extrapolating this lesson to other areas of life, is that the idea that you can have a very small action lead to a very big outcome. That's the point I'm trying to get across. So obviously in this case, you put a flame next to fuel, it explodes into a massive fire. That kind of makes sense. But I realized in life, there are many actions we can do that's similar to that. But instead of getting us a burst of flames, it gives us a burst of success. So my point is that sometimes small actions in real life lead to very big outcomes. And sure, sometimes they're bad outcomes, a fire, but it can also be very good outcomes. And for example, I remember starting my first YouTube channel back in year 7. And that's when I made videos on how to play Clash of Clans. And I spent almost a year trying to get subscribers, like 100 subscribers, but I never ended up even reaching 100. So that's that. That was back when I was year 7. And if I didn't have that initial interest to do YouTube, I wouldn't have ended up starting all the different channels that I would have like later on. Because then 7 years later, I started a study channel. And then I got into this job as a YouTube strategist. And we recently actually just hit 1 million subscribers. I got there's the play button up there. So it honestly was like one small decision to make a bunch of Clash of Clans videos back then led to a big outcome now. So perhaps it's not as sudden as like, you know, putting a match to a flame, but in terms of how big the outcome is, it's very similar. So that's the real reason why I wanted to share the story. That small actions you take today can lead to like very big outcomes. It can be for the negative, but most likely, if you put in the hard work and you aim it at the right direction, it leads to exceptional and sometimes unpredictable results.